Sherbo. I'm here with Terry Hayes, and we have Troy and Scotty and Carla, and I guess Mrs. Scotty probably, and Veronica here. Thomas is not going to be with us today. He already let us know he's undergoing some tests at a hospital, and they don't have Wi-Fi. What hospital doesn't have Wi-Fi? That section of the hospital, but you didn't have Wi-Fi. This is B'nai Noach Connection with Israel, and today's date in Israel is the 22nd of August, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're so glad that you're here with us, whatever your time zone is. We really look forward to these meetings, and sometimes we have more, sometimes we have less. We hope we're going to end up getting more and more people listening in. And we're doing a series about essentially where do the 7 universal laws come from? Where do the 7 and last week we did a kind of an introduction to everything. And I'd like to say that we talked about a few things. We talked about how the Torah scroll is so important. The scroll itself, we all have the Chumash, and we all have the computers, and we can all read everything. But we're not really getting a full reading. There was one point where Terry held up a book that showed how it was written. It wasn't just written like this, but it was written in a certain way on the page to convey a certain idea and picture. And just to refresh your memory, we can use Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elokeinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And it's a great declaration, and everybody should say it every morning. But unless you see it written in Hebrew on a page in the scroll, you don't get the full impact of it. In the scroll, Shema, which has an ayin, a letter ayin at the end of the word, is written larger than the rest of the word Shema, and larger than the rest of the words on the page. And then you say Adonai Elokeinu, Adonai Echad. The Dalet at the end of Echad is written bigger. It's ayin Dalet, and those 2 letters, when we come together, ayin Dalet is ed, a Hebrew word which means witness. So every time that you say Shema Yisrael Adonai Elokeinu Adonai Echad, you are a witness to who God is. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you're actually being a witness to God, yourself, and the rest of the world as to who he is and the truth of everything he says. And it's I think it's written that way. Hello, Angelica. Good to see you. Hey, is that George in the background? Hello. I don't know if she hears me yet. Testing 1, 2, 3. Anyway. So when you say the Shema Yisrael, you're actually a witness before God, before yourself and the world as to who he is. And it applies to everybody, not just Jewish people. Shema Yisrael. The original time that it was said was when Jacob called his boys together to tell them what's going to happen in the end of times, because he knew. But the minute he did that, God took the Shekhinah away, so he couldn't remember. So he started talking to the boys, and he couldn't remember. And the boys turned to him and said, Shema, listen, Israel, because that was his name. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. But it was not written out in Torah. Why? Because then that's all we'd remember is what the boys said to the dad. The 12 tribes said to Israel, their dad, when we get it back, I think it's somewhere in Devarim where you got that there? I can't see it. My eyes are too. My eyes don't pick it up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the this print is a little bit smaller. I'll have to get a different, other than Muhammad to show it.
The point is, where we get it from Moses when he talks about it is where we understand that this is something we have to embrace fully with all of ourselves, the animal part of us, the God part of us, with everything, this love of God. And when we say it, we are a witness. The ayin at the end of the word Shema and the daled at the end of the word achad at the very end of the sentence. Ayin daled means ed, or witness. So it's just not a simple, oh, there you go. You can see it there on the screen now. The ayin at the beginning, after the word Shema, at the end of the first word, at the end of the last word, the daled that's high, the bigger than the rest of the letters. When we read that and we see it, our scholars say, wait a minute, they scratch their heads. Why is this like this? Why is it this way? Last week we talked about there are letters, words are spelt missing letters or with extra letters, and there's always something in there. And then when you read a translation, Hear, O Israel, Lord our God, the Lord is one. Okay, next sentence. You miss huge, huge meanings of what's there in the 5 books of Moses. If you don't learn some of what we call the oral Torah, what was said along with the writing, you're missing explanations. Now, do you have to have them to survive? No, you absolutely do not have to have them to survive. If you love God and you fear God and you're doing what he says to do, you don't have to know all this other stuff. But you know what? Most of us like to learn that stuff. It gives us it makes us feel a deeper love and a deeper connection with our Creator. So
but
now,
can we say the Shema? I've been told that Noahides aren't allowed to.
Well, I don't know who's telling you that. The Shema is for every human being that breathes to say it at least once a day.
The whole Shema doesn't fit for us, the parts that has the commandments.
No, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Yeah, because it took me a while to understand that too. When you really listen to that the first verse, Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Elokeinu, our God. Hashem is our God. He's the God of Israel. He's our God. He's their God and our God. Those of us who have accepted him and taken on the 7 laws. So we can say the first sentence because we're part of that hour.
That's true, but you don't have to separate to day and hour, okay?
No, I'm not. Oh,
no. Let me finish. Let me finish what I'm saying. The minute you become what we call Tzaddik HaOlamot, the righteous of the nations, the minute you've joined Israel, you've joined Israel. You say, okay, so you're not Jewish, so but you're still a righteous person that is hooked up with God, so you're part of Israel. I mean, that's what's going to be in the end anyway. Over the whole earth, it's going to be Israel during the millennial kingdom. It's not going to be there aren't going to be the 70 nations. They're not going to be around anymore. So you're going to be a citizen of Israel. Go ahead, Terry.
I have a question that I've been pondering on that subject that you were just saying about joining Israel. I've read some things from some clips from the Jerusalem Talmud and stuff where it talks about where God will attach the righteous of the nations to Israel. And I don't know all the Hebrew, and I just have the English translation of that. So my question is the B'nai Noach attached to Israel? We're not Israel, we're attached to Israel, correctly? And I guess what I'm saying, could it be like, how a person puts a lapel pin on, or a hat pin on? It's not actually part of the garment, but it's attached to the garment. Is that how we become attached to Israel in that metaphor?
Absolutely not. No. I'm going to mention some words now that are very controversial right now on the internet in a lot of the groups. Use the word ger. Ger essentially means alien. The first time it's used, God reminds us that we're supposed to treat foreigners in a proper manner because we were strangers because we were strangers in a strange land in Egypt. That's where it comes from. But there's this big controversy going on about what they call the ger movement, which I'm not getting into, but there are different classifications. You have the ger tzedek, which some of the Jewish people think that's the way you should call a convert, but God says you're not supposed to use the word ger for a convert after they're converted. I know it's like a paradox here. You're not supposed to remind people that they converted, so they're not a ger anymore. They're part of Israel.
Yeah, you're not supposed to remind them for 10 generations.
Right. So what does it mean, ger tzedek? A righteous stranger or a righteous alien. From what I've read in various places, it means the same as the righteous of the nations. Someone who's attached themselves to Israel in such a way that they become part of Israel. Now, there are those people that don't attach themselves. There are those people during World War II that saved Jewish lives, saved Jewish children. They were Roman Catholic, they were this, they were that. They never actually became part of Israel, but they're honored as a ger tzedek because they were a stranger that was righteous to help Israel. So I prefer, when I see you guys not Noahide, not anything else, I say you are the righteous of the nations. Now, me personally, why do I use that? Because it says, and I have to go look it up, but I wasn't prepared to talk on this, but God says when someone joins himself to him that is not Jewish and doesn't come from the Jewish family, but they attach themselves to him anyway, they become a part of Israel. Now, where do we see the first instance of this? In the Torah. This is about 40 days out of exile. And out of exile came what? Came not only Israel, the Jews, but what they called the mixed multitude. Some of the necromancers came out with them. Some of the smart people came out with them from Egypt. I'm not staying here anymore. Too much trouble staying here in Egypt. This guy gets in too much trouble. So they left with us and marched with us, went through the first 40 days, and God comes down and he tells Moses, all these people out here, you tell Israel to meet me in 3 days. He just calls everybody Israel. He didn't care who they were, where they came from. Anybody that spent those 40 days, and there's a whole story about those 40 days and the purification processes, but the 50 days, actually, I think it is. But my memory's going, guys. Anyway, the point is they went through all the trials and tribulations to get to Mount Sinai. And God says, well, you made it through, so now I want Israel to come stand in front of me, and it's singular. Every word that comes out of his mouth is singular. Tell Israel to purify itself, to put dress up nice. Tell Israel, don't have marital relationships for 3 days. I want everybody pure to stand in front of me. Israel, singular. I want all of Israel, but he calls it Israel. He tells Moses, tell Israel to meet me here in 3 days. Like he's talking about one person. So all this mixed multitude was part of Israel. After they went to 40 days through all the trials and tribulations and purification steps that it took for 49 days. The 50th day is when they met. So what I'm saying is that once you go through it, you're not attached to it like, oh, here's this guy over here, let's pull him in. You're part of it. You're part of Israel. Now, I know people go to Jerusalem, they meet in front of 3 rabbis, and they accept they accept the yoke of Torah for what they're supposed to accept, the 7 universal laws. Once they commit to God that they're going to do that in front of 3 witnesses, which are usually part of Israel, 3 judges, they get a certificate since they're a ger toshav. Today, that certificate is worth this. That's what it's worth today. But when the time comes to be a ger toshav, that means you've accepted the all of Torah now, here and now. And when the Messiah is arriving, and when everybody's called to Israel, you've already got your passport. You're ready. You don't have to say, wait a minute, I've been an idiot all these years. I better wake up or I'm going to be left behind. I'm not going to be around. So you've already become, in God's eyes, you've earned the right to live and be a part of Israel, live in the neighborhoods, be with people, not attached to, but inside of, like woven into. You become a part of Israel. And how do we know this? It says the minute you do it, you are entitled to the next level of life. Actually, the translation is you're entitled to going to the next level with the Messiah. Everybody gets resurrected in the resurrection of the dead, by the way. But the only people that go with the Messiah get out of Egypt, which is this world right now, are the ones that are part of the group. And that's what you guys are, making yourselves part of the group. So when this incident happens, whether it's 300 years from now or 100 years from now or tomorrow morning or 3 seconds from now, you're already ger toshavim. You're already, okay, come on, you're going to be told. You're with us. I hate to use the word salvation because it's not salvation. It's just going on to the next level of life. You've punched your ticket, you paid your dues, you've studied, you're living your life helping people. And so you move on to the next level because we got to the highest point we get to in this life. What happens when we die? We take off our little bodysuits and we trade it in for another one. Because the body was created not for eternity, but you were and I was. We were created for eternity. You know, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, no, the one before him, said, all I yearn for is to be totally with you. I don't want Garden of Eden. I don't want anything. I just want to be with you, God. That's all I pray for. The first time I heard it, he said, why would anybody want to pray for that? To actually be reunited with God. What happens to the you? Because God is so powerful. What happens to the me? My identity, Pesach Shema. And then after much more study and teachings that I just thirsted for, I found out that the Pesach Shema is eternal. I'll be going to the next level and the next level and the next level, but the biggest step that we need to do is get out of the swamp we're in now. Once we pass through this swamp and we get rid of the bodysuit and we get, they call it a new body. I don't know what it means by that. There's a lot of speculation. But the point is, tells us there's no night where we're going. We don't even know if we're going to have to eat or anything, but we're going to be there. We're going to be studying and learning. As we learn each step, And we graduate up another level and graduate up another level, and it's infinite. Our learning as we get greater understanding as much as we can of who God is. Well, there's 7 of us here right now. 100 years from now, the 7 of us may be sitting somewhere up there in the same classroom, discussing stuff and learning stuff. We don't know, but we know we're going to be there. Because we have put aside idolatry. We've put aside the ego. We've struggled through it. We've gotten to the point where we know who God is, and what we have to do is just simply serve him, and we're covered. All we have to do is serve him, not ourselves, and we're covered. He takes care of us because we take care of him, and we complete the picture. So it's just, when you realize this, and when you say, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elokeinu, Adonai Echad, you're saying it to yourself, you're saying it to him, and anybody else that may be listening. Now, there's the next verse down is also, you can say, Baruch Shem Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Blessed is his name. Baruch. Oh boy, I got to get that.
Hey, Pastor.
You got it there?
Baruch Shem Kavod Makuso Leolam Va'ed.
Blessed is his name in his kingdom forever and ever. That's all you're saying.
It's the undertone verse when it's being.
Yeah, you say it out loud, the Shema, and the other one you just kind of say quietly. And then when you start reading the rest of the Shema, there are parts in there that are really only for Israel, just like there are other parts in the prayers that are only for Israel. We're getting ready to go to Jerusalem in the morning, and I guess I got all my prayer books in the other room.
You looking for something on the Shema?
No, I just want to read the. Wait a minute. This will only take a second. Let me get this up here. All right. I was going to go a little bit word for word because this is part of the Shema prayer. Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to get my prayer book. Hold on a minute, because I'm not seeing up on the screen exactly, because I want to look at it and talk about a few words in it. This all has, by the way, why are we all into this? Do not worship a false deity, which is one of the 7 universal laws, so I'm listed as number 1. And we get part of it from Genesis 2:16. And I should have had this up on my other screen so I could read it quickly. 2:16. The Lord commanded you. What? Lord commanded to the man. Oh, okay. The Lord commanded man. The Lord commanded man. It doesn't say Israel. It says the Lord commanded El Ha'adam to man. That's us. Of every tree of the garden you may eat freely, but the tree of knowledge, etc., and so forth. This is how important words are in the Torah. God commanded man. It doesn't say Israel. It doesn't say Adam. It doesn't say, well, actually, it does say Adam because it's man, but it says Ha-Adam, the man. That's all of us. God's talking to all of us, the same exact words. He's not talking, he doesn't single out any special group. He's talking to all human beings. And we know through these things that we learn that everything he talks about is for all human beings. which goes into a whole nother discussion. My head goes to the other discussion. We're not going to put it there right now. We are human beings. We were created by God 5,779 years ago and set down in the Garden of Eden to watch over this garden here of the earth. That's our job. That's what we were created for. You and me and every other person has lived and is going to be wherever it's going to be. That's our job to do. We don't have to do anything else. We think we do, but we don't. So when it says here, and the Lord God commanded them, saying, commanded to man, Itzavo Hashem Elokeinu, commanded the Lord our God, El Ha'adam, and it's a hyphenated word, to the man. That's us. And he said, you can eat from every tree of the garden in the Garden of Eden. He didn't restrict anybody from it. He didn't say, oh, because you're not going to be Jewish or you're not Jewish, you can't eat in this tree or that tree. So you're not attached. You're woven into and a part of everything that's going on in creation. And when you wake up to the Creator and you have your relationship with God, you become woven even more tighter into that fabric. You're not some little, isn't it annoying when you got this nice, beautiful sweater on, and you got one little strand that's kind of snagged, and it just kind of ruins the whole picture of the sweater. Well, this is what people do to themselves when they allow that to happen to themselves. A part of themselves become unraveled and disconnected from God. Now, most sweaters, when you sit down and you knit a sweater vest, or maybe in knitting two, I don't know, they knit them together, but the point is, from the top to the bottom, it's one string. If you cut the bottom of it and you pull the string, what happens? The whole thing unravels. My oldest daughter used to go to Goodwill and yard sales and buy strictly wool sweaters, anything made from wool that's knitted or something like that, and she used to unravel them, put them in skeins again, and resell the yarn on eBay or Amazon or something. I forget what, but it was a pretty lucrative business for a while. It's made from one strand. And so all of us are a part of that creation. Every once in a while, one of the strands in a certain area gets a little twisted or pulled or snagged a little, and it makes it all look, I don't know, you know what I mean. I don't know how to say it in English. But it destroys the whole look of the whole thing. And that's what mankind is doing to itself by all the ego stuff. Wait a minute, I don't want to be part of this. I'm better than this little strand, or I'm better than this one, or I'm better than that one, when we're all part of the same thing anyway. Go ahead, Terry.
This is amazing. But gotta look at humanity here, especially those of us a lot of us where we came from, Christianity and stuff. Even though we're woven in, there's still a separation between the righteous of the nations and righteous and Israel, right? And what I'm saying is that if someone could take this and misapply it and say, well, I can do the same commandments that Israel does. And we still have that separation, what God has commanded us, what he's commanded you, and stuff. So some kids say, well, if I'm part of Israel, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to wear sheep seats. I can do the prayer shawl. I can do all that. And I know there's certain limitations someone can do. So I'm just wondering, with this, someone could misuse this understanding, is what I'm concerned with.
Well, people can, they can misuse it if they don't understand what's going on. Where you work, you have a job description. You get up every morning, you drive down there, you do your job. Now, if you see somebody else not doing their job, you say, well, I can do it better than him anyway, so I'm going to go do his job. What's that person going to say and what's the boss going to say to you? Wait a minute, what about your job? You got a responsibility over here. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Why are you doing what he's supposed to be doing? What are you going to answer to your boss? What are you going to tell God when God says, wait a minute, why are you doing all this little hokey-pokey stuff over here when I gave you something to do? This is what you're supposed to do. Just do it. This is why you're here. That's your whole reason to be here, is to do this, not that. I gave this job to somebody else to do. And you know what? This is where our replacement with theology came from. This is, the Christians said, we're the new Israel. They don't know what they're doing. They're all a bunch of fools and they're bad people, and we're going to do it. Nowhere does it say where God told them to do it. So think about it. If your job is to be a brain surgeon, why would you be operating on somebody's foot? Well, of course, unless it was an emergency, but let's take that out of the picture. You were trained to be a brain surgeon, be a brain surgeon. Do you know that in Israel itself, if you were created to be a diamond polisher, I'm just using this as an example, you decide, you know what, I really don't want to do that, but you're one of the best, you're good at it, this is the way you make your living. You say, I'm going to go bake bread every morning. And the person goes and bakes bread, even if it's good bread, he's sinning. He's missing the mark. Because he was created in the creation, was part of his job was to be a diamond polisher. Now you can interchange any jobs you want in there. So if Israel was designated to be a light to the nations and to show people and teach people about God, the minute we don't do it, we're missing the mark, and we have for years out of self-defense, because every time we start teaching, somebody says, we don't like this, we'll kill them. And we go through all of history and check that out. And the other people read the conversation that God has with us, because we allow people to read whatever they want. These people are a bunch of idiots. They were bad people. They were stiff-necked. We're replacing God. We're replacing them. We're your children now. They're not. It's kind of like when you were young and growing up in your father's house, and you did something wrong, and he chews you out for it. And the kid next door, hearing it, says, I'd rather be at their house than my house. So I'm going to go over there and tell that father I'm now his child, because the one he just screamed at and was upset with, I'm better than him. Think about this. If someone comes up to you as an adult and as a parent and saw that you've just been upset with your child, you just kind of walked away a little bit from each other, and this person walks up and says, okay, yeah, you're done with that kid, so now look at me. I'm such a good person. You're going to love me now. And I'm replacing your child. What would you think about that person? Go away from me. Yeah, exactly. And this is what the Christians did to the Jews. This is how it started. That's where replacement theology started. But you know what? You know in your heart one thing. If your kids, even if they make you angry and you want to spit nails and you try to correct them of the stuff they're doing and they make the same mistake again, did you ever stop loving them? Not a shot. This is the relationship, the true relationship between Israel and God. He calls them his children. And anybody that joins Israel, it's the same deal, but you have to join it the way he says to do it, not just come and say, well, I'm moving in because I'm a better kid than your kid.
I see.
more. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I seen something online the other day. It kind of got me irritated, and I tried to find out their source, and they wouldn't tell me about it. So I went to looking for it myself and found some verses, not exactly what they were saying, but because I learned what Genesis 8:22 taught correctly, and I learned it correctly now, when I see such verses, some people have gotten angry at these passages. One in particular says, you know, the nations will take care of your vineyards for you. And some people will think, you know, that's, you know, they'll take that and interpret it completely wrong. But when I see stuff like that now, with the knowledge of what Genesis 8:22 states, that, you know, seed time and harvest doesn't end. Part of our work is that our part of the creation is 7 days a week, 365 days a year, to do the work of the earth. And when I see verses like now, you know, in what I've read in the past, you know, that the nations will become the vine dressers of Israel, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's not a problem. They have to stop. They have duties to do. Our duty is to take care of the earth. So when Israel stops, we keep on doing, and everything gets taken care of. It's not ignored. And so I kind of see things now a lot differently because I've been taught the correct understanding of Genesis 8:22.
Right. That's a good observation. But it doesn't say anywhere that you can't take a day off, or you can't have a day of rest, or you can't.
Oh no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just that.
No, I understand. I'm just making it clear for people that are listening.
Right.
Somebody might say, well, what do you mean we got to work 365 days a year? No, you don't.
No, I mean, to understand, let me back this up. When you read about the Sabbath and you read that, you know, Hashem rested and Israel rested, that rest pertains to the acts of creating. That is the rest. It's not like throwing your legs up in the hammock and sleeping all day. They're not there to cease. Israel's to cease from all creative actions, anything that involves creating. We don't. Even on a day off, let's say we don't work, we take a day, we go to the beach, where we're getting in the car, or we're lighting campfire. We're doing acts of creation, and that's something we're not permitted to cease from. So it's okay for us. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is now when I see verses that seemed in the past very derogatory toward the nations, actually, when you understand the job of the B'nai Noah, it's really an honor that we get. Okay, Israel is going to be, you know, probably taking care of their vineyards through the week, unless that's what you do is your job. But then when they stop for Shabbos and Yom Tovs and different things like that, well, we just step right in and we're just making sure that the grapes don't rot on the vine. You know, we're working together. It's kind of like that Alabama song, we're spokes within a wheel.
There you go. It's exactly right. Don't forget, the Messianic time period is supposed to last 1,000 years. In that 1,000 years, the whole earth becomes the country of Israel, the nation of Israel. So someone has to keep the country of Israel fed, clothed, move the stuff over the roads, fly it in the air. And so there's whatever job you choose to do, you do. God created you to do that job in the end.
And the beginning of understanding all of this is the prohibition of idolatry.
Right, because the minute that you say to yourself, well, God said this, but this is the way I think it is, or the minute you get angry, you got to understand that the negative emotions are animal emotions. They come from your heart. And that all these negative emotions and all our lusts and our drives and our yens are all negative emotions. And that the minute we give into them, we're giving into ourselves. We're not looking outside of ourselves. There isn't one of these negative emotions that looks outward, only inward. That's where stalkers come from. Oh, I'm in love with this person. Love, it's good, it's good, it's good. But no, what they're doing is totally evil. But they think it's good because they're only listening to themselves. And part of this prohibition of idol worship, and not believing in idols, is, do you know that we're not allowed to have kneeling stones? We used to prostrate ourselves on the floor in front of the ark, in front of God. We can't do that anymore because it says we're not supposed to do what other people that follow after idols do. What do you see when you go into church? There's people on the floor, face down in front of this, whatever kind of statue it is, praying. So we had to stop that. We don't kneel and pray. Why? Because people think we're something else other than who we really are, Israel. We had to stop. Most of our prayers are said standing up with our 2 feet together, straight up and down. And there are certain times where we either bow or we kiss our tefillin or our tzitzit. But that's our job. It's not anybody else's job, but natural-born Israel or those that convert. And who are the converts? We're told that the converts were people that are actually there. Their souls were at Mount Sinai. Someone said to me, well, I made a decision to convert and then decided not to. It was kind of almost like what Terry went through. If you can't do anything else but convert, has nothing to do with a decision, then you were one of those souls that were originally called Israel back in the beginning. It's time for you to start doing your Israel stuff. Hi, Marinella. Good to see you. We had the great pleasure of having Marinella stop in and see us with her sister a couple of weeks ago. What a wonderful time that was. They were. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but they happened to be over in Jordan. They said, well, we're right here. We're going to come visit you. And they came and visited Shira and I, and Shira took them around the spot and showed them. They were here like 4 or 5 hours. It wasn't much more than that, but it was really, really an intense and great visit. And we really appreciate you stopping by us in Jordan neighborhood. Thanks.
Yes. Incredible experience. Thank you so much, Pesach, and I hope Shira is doing well. Is she here in the States, or she was planning?
We're going to Jerusalem for the weekend, and at the end of Shabbat, I'm early in the morning, at 3 in the morning, I'm driving her down to the airport, dropping her off, and I'm coming home. She's coming to the States because her
daughter.
Yeah, but I'm trying to put it in where the daughter. Anyway, one of her daughters had a due date that's next week. Well, guess who arrived yesterday, your time?
No way!
Yeah. It's like 7 this morning, our time, just before midnight. And anyway, so she has a new granddaughter.
Congratulations.
And she's leaving our time 6 in the morning on Sunday morning, and she's going down to Abilene, Texas to spend 3 weeks with them. So that she's really excited about that.
Yeah.
So anyway, by the way, anybody that's in the neighborhood, just come on down, or if you want to stay here for a while, we'll be talking some of that stuff for next summer. We'd like to see some of you here. But we were talking about worshiping ourselves. Whenever you get into negative emotions, you're worshiping yourself. You're making yourself more important than everything else. You're saying that this person has got me angry and they have no right to get me angry. Well, of course, they can say what they want. They have every right to say whatever they want. They can think whatever they want. God doesn't say, if you think this way, I'm going to strike you with lightning. But you want to keep calling them Noahides for the time being. The Noahides' job is the 7 universal laws, just like that's my job. But they're not supposed to do somebody else's job. It doesn't make somebody any better or worse to wear a kippah or to put on tzitzit or to whatever it is you want to do. It says it makes me feel Jewish. It makes me feel closer to Israel. What do you want to be a copycat for? What do you want to impersonate somebody for? God said, never said, if you don't have tzitzit, you're not close to me. He never said, if you don't wear a head covering, you're not close to me. Of course, a head covering is not biblical anyway, by the way, just so you all know. He never says if you eat, he never says to the world, if you eat shrimp, pork, catfish, rattlesnake, or alligator, you're not close to me. He never says it in the negative. All he says is, Israel, this is what I want you to eat. The Jewish people, the children of Jacob. You know, there was one question until I came to this understanding that we get all the time. What if a person lives in a part of the world where they only have wild pigs or they only have shrimp in the water or stuff like that? They're supposed to starve to death? And it took me years to understand, no, it's okay. People can eat whatever they have to eat to stay alive. Even a Jew can if he can't get anything else. But the way that God tells the Jews to eat is for the Jewish people, not for all other people. We wear the tzitzit, and it says, when we look at them, okay, and I don't even have to have them on at night. It says, when you see them in the day, it'll remind you of my commandments and to do all my commandments. And we wear them on the outside because when people see them, when you see somebody wearing them, you identify, you know who they are. This is someone that's doing this all day long. But if you're not Jewish and you wear them and you wear a kippah and you dress like a Jewish person, people are going to think you're Jewish. That means at Halloween you put a policeman's costume on, people are going to think you're a policeman. Or if you put it on at any time, a costume, like in a play or a movie. But you're really not. Oh boy, I look like one, isn't it neat? But you're really not. You're not, you may dress like a chef. You can't scramble an egg or boil water. You're being an imposter. It's not right. I know I've told this story before, but I saw a post years ago on the internet where a lady was really proud because her husband, who was a Christian messianic, or he doesn't call himself Christian, he's messianic. He wore his little tzitzit and he wore his kippah, and he's walking down the street of Jerusalem. Somebody came out and grabbed him and said, "Oh, you're the 10th man. Come on in, so we can have our prayer service." How wonderful he was accepted in. But what that person did was lie to the other 9 Jewish guys. God said, you can't do this unless you have 10 Jewish people. He caused them to sin because he impersonated a Jew. We have, where I pray, we've had this, it happens to us quite often. Well, somebody new will come in and they'll come in and pray. But when we're counting, we got to get to 10. We always ask somebody, are you Jewish? Now, some people get offended, but we need to do it because we get people coming in that are in a conversion program. And yeah, that's a good one. I thank you for putting that up. I want to read that in just a second. I'll read it out loud. They come in and they bring their prayer shawl and they bring their talit and they wear a kippah. They may even wear tzitzit. And they might come every day for 6 months. We can't count them in the minion. This just happened to someone that I was good friends with. He just finally got his conversion. He's been married to a Jewish lady for like 20-some years. Finally got his conversion. Finally got married under a chuppah. And in a Jewish marriage. And the next day when he came to the shul, he got called up to read from the Torah. That was his first time. He's actually a Jew, but he never once tried to do something that he wasn't supposed to do. Never once in the first day. So don't be an impersonator. I mean, I'm not telling, I know you guys aren't, but these people think, well, I'm impersonating one, so the guy's going to like me because I'm doing a good impression. Come on. I got a cousin who's a stand-up comic. He does all kinds of impressions. That doesn't mean that he's good at being a comic or good at being what he's trying to impress people with, either one. Psalm 145:18, Hashem is close to all who call upon him, to all who call upon him in truth. His truth he's talking about, not your own truth.
He's talking about being close. You were talking about being close to Hashem doesn't require doing all these things.
Right.
And if that's what came to my mind was that passage, Hashem's close to all who call upon him. It's not whether you're Jewish or not Jewish, or whether you don't eat pork or you do eat pork. You know, when you were talking about that, that's what came to my mind.
You know what? My daughter, where she used to live, when you came up and turned off the road into her highway, there was an old shack on the side of the corner. I mean, it's an actual shack is what it looked like. And it had this kind of sign tilted over and hand painted, the best doggone ribs in the world. And every time you went by there to smell barbecue ribs, I love it's making my mouth water right now. I can't eat them, but that's how I like them. Anybody can go eat them that wants to. I can't. When I realized I can't, I stopped eating all the pork. I stopped eating anything except what's on what God's approved list, because that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. Maybe someday I'll put pork back on. I don't know. Man, barbecue ribs. Anyway, it's okay to eat whatever you want. Now, it doesn't mean that what you put in your mouth is going to be healthy, but you can eat whatever you want, and you're not going to get in trouble with Hashem for that. I can't. Yes, go ahead, Angelica.
I eat, okay, what is healthy for me, like you said. About the pork meat, we haven't eaten pork for years and years, because even a doctor will tell you pork meat is not good for you.
No, I agree.
And so the reason why, what I found out when I was in Israel for that month, I found out that a lot of people eat what they eat to stay healthy. Like their food is actually healthy to eat. Like it's not like us Westerners here, we eat anything, but that's where I'm at. I want to eat healthy, and I learn from the Jewish people how they eat, and so I eat that too. And for that reason, you're teaching me.
No, but that's good, but that's like a side effect of learning about everything. But you can't say God told me I have to eat this way, right? Don't eat this God commanded. No, that was the point I was making. That's all.
Oh, okay. I'm just like, I'm learning from the Jewish people on how they eat and why. And so I'm like, you know what? That's actually healthy. So God has a way of you teaching us in that kind of way too.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
That's true. About that. I'm totally happy about that. Thank you very much.
That's Angelica and everybody. The whole important point here is you have to do things for the right reason.
Yeah, that's a good reason. Yeah.
That's a good reason, but the reason I don't is because God's told me not to. So someone that's not Jewish can't say, I don't do it because God told me not to.
Oh, yeah, no.
You can say, I'm not doing it because God told the Jews not to do it. I looked into it and see it's not healthy to eat that, so I'm not going to do it. You decided not to do it.
Yeah.
In other words, all I'm saying is we can't impersonate one another.
Oh,
Right.
No.
That was my only point I was making on that.
Okay.
I wanted to get the prayer book. Let me and just read a paragraph because I've been looking for you. If I don't want it, it'll pop right up, I'm sure. I can't even, in my application in the phone, I can find the Jewish prayers immediately. Okay. There's 3 paragraphs there: Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9, Deuteronomy 11, 13 through 21, and Numbers 15, 37 through 41. And of course, it doesn't. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Maybe if I click on that, I'll get it. Okay, we're looking at Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your means. Sometimes it's translated differently, but with all your means. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart, and you shall teach them to your sons and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk on the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be ornaments between your eyes, and you'll inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. This is strictly an instruction to the Jewish people. Now, you can take parts of this. The first sentence, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your means. We look at it this way. Of course, we know what with all your heart is. You always put God first, not yourself. With your soul, that means you transfer from the animal soul to the godly soul. So you're connected with God through that, and the godly soul controls the animal soul. But the next one, with all your means, it's a little hard to understand what this means. Rashi says, with all your possessions. There are people whose possessions are more precious to them than their own bodies. So it says, with all your means, you will love God. What does this mean? That with all my possessions, I will love God. That means you're going to do His work with what you have in a physical, monetary, possessional way. You're going to feed the hungry. You're going to give charity. You're going to pay your teachers. You're going to do the tithing. You're going to do everything. Now, a lot of people are tired of tithing and giving money because that's what the game the church has played for so many years. Because they took it from this type of thing. But a Jewish person gives 10%, which we call it part of our tithe, for want of a better word in English. We make sure 10% goes out. Then over that, the people that come to us up on the street we give, or somebody comes and they need a new refrigerator, some of the neighbors will get together and buy something, or buy them the refrigerator together. We don't count it as, okay, that's part of our 10%. Most of us here in Sfat, in this community and in many other communities around the world, do it this way. When you're getting ready for Shabbat, you know who your neighbors are. It isn't like you live next door to somebody or across the street from somebody for 10 years and you don't know who they are, because that happens sometimes in America. Or you live in an apartment building and you don't know the person in the next apartment. You know who people are. You know what their wants and needs are. And let's say you know that on Shabbat it's a little tough for them. Say, well, come eat with us on Shabbat. Or I'm going to the grocery store. What do you need for Shabbat? Or come with me, buy your stuff. I'll take care of it. We don't count this as part of our obligation to God in the tithing. We count this as something called kindness. It comes under, wait a minute. And this is for everybody. Let's see. I got to get a better light here. Do not commit murder or injury. It actually shows up in two places for human beings, but don't do murder or don't do injury to somebody. By not helping them, when you know they're in trouble, you're doing injury to them. You walk away from them. So you do that, you help them. Just like Sharon and I, there are people here in Sfat that we kind of adopted, and we make sure that if they need some extra money, they don't have to come and ask. We give them some money every month to help them get through the month and pay bills. I mean, think about it. Some of the people here have 6, 8, 10, 12 kids, and they're doing it because God wants them to do that. And the guy can't make enough money to make ends meet, so you help him out. You help him be part of the fabric of Israel. Make them stronger people. We call it tzedakah. And many people translate it to charity, but it's really not. That's only one small part of it. Every time we pray, in the morning we get up, and each time we have our little box that we put some coins in. Every time we pray. Why? Because you're used to taking a little bit out of your pocket and putting it in, and then when the box gets filled up, somebody might come around asking for a little help or something. We just give it to them. So help them. It's called kindness. It's not called charity. It's called being kind. We pay for a student at Aish HaTorah Yeshiva in Jerusalem. We pay monthly bills for him. We just automatically do it. We have students we do here at the Chabad yeshivas here, 2 of them. We just helped purchase 2 new Chabad buildings. They sell them by the meter. They take the building, put the price of the building, divide it up, and they sell it by the meter. So you're part of it may cost you $50 a month, $100 a month, and you bought a meter of the building. What does that mean? You've helped them pay their mortgage for it. This is all under tzedakah, kindness, doing kindness to others. You've helped people across the street. You've helped people downstairs. You've helped people buy groceries in the grocery line, probably most of you. The person in front of you didn't seem to have enough money that day, or you look at their situation and you just tell the cashier you'll pay for the groceries for that person, or some kids are up there at the counter and they got some ice cream and stuff in their hands, and they keep saying how much, and they count their money, and how much they count their money, and you just pay it for them. That's called kindness. It's not called charity. It's called being kind to other people, to other human beings. So anyway, do you have to break an idol to do that? What is that idol? Your means, your possessions. You make them more important than things around you. They become idols. Or one idol, which is everything in your house is one idol. Some people, a car is an idol. Some people, a swimming pool in the backyard is an idol. You have to smash through these things. There has to be things more important than possessions. What is that? The person sitting next to you in a chair on a bus, the person's next to you in a movie theater, walking down the street. They're more important than all these things. But yet we have all over the world the same problem San Francisco has, and Los Angeles has, and San Diego has, with homeless people, people not being fed properly, people losing their homes and nobody helping them. This is, wait a minute, what happened to being kind? Well, they don't deserve this, man. Oh, you want a house, go out and get a job. Da, da, da. What happened to kindness? Just being kind to one another. The U.S. said, I read in the paper today that veterans, people that fought for the freedom of people in the USA, they're homeless, their medical bills aren't being paid. But if you sneak across the borders like some little rat, the United States government gives them a salary and gives them a house or an apartment and gives them money for food. What happened to kindness here? They think they're being kind to these people that are sneaking across the border that aren't respecting laws. They should be being kind to the people that fought so that people could have those laws. Now, I don't want to get preachy about this, but the United States has become something other than it was when I was growing up as a kid. And many countries are like that now. You think you find a homeless veteran here in Israel? Not a shot. You find an orphan child here in Israel? Not a shot. Even if both parents are killed, although here in Israel we call, if one parent gets killed, we call that person orphaned. But if both person, God forbid, were killed, somebody here in Israel is going to take those kids in and raise them. Even if they don't have close relatives, somebody's going to raise those kids. They don't have to go live in an orphanage. We do have homes for what do you call them? Recalcitrant kids. You know, normal kids. They're just angry or they go through the usual stuff. And we have homes for them where they get help. When you are kind to the cruel, you will be cruel to the kind.
I learned that in shul.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're pandering, see, I mean, when you're kind to the cruel, in other words, you allow them to, yes, that's okay, sure, no problem. Then the ones you should be kind to, actually, we're going to find out you gave the other people what they should have been given to these people over there. And so it's a really good statement. When you're kind to the cruel, you will be cruel to the kind. And that's what's happening all across the world, not just in the USA. That's what's happening across the world. But if you want to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your means, that means, let's say you get a little extra money that comes in. I'm going to go buy me a whole bunch of new clothes. I'm going to go buy me a big TV. And instead of saying, wait a minute, maybe somebody needs something. Maybe I should take part of this money and help somebody that needs help. Go ahead, Terry.
Oh, no, I was waving at Scotty. Scotty's got to leave.
Oh, you leaving, Scotty? Wait a minute. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Scotty. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, I feel so blessed. Thank you so much, Pesach.
Until 120, Scotty.
Oh, I'll take it. I'll take it. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much, Pesach.
Good night. And the only reason I knew it was his birthday is it said it on Facebook. If I don't see it on Facebook, I don't know. So do not worship a false deity, which means don't worship yourself, don't worship a rock, don't worship the sun, don't worship anything that isn't the one true God. Don't worship a cat, don't worship your car, don't worship your horse. And God's really serious about this. And like we said, it came from basically from Genesis 2:16, although we can get into deeper and deeper stuff, but most people like to know, where can I show somebody? And it's only 4 words there that talks about it. And God said to man, to the man, you can eat from all the rest of it is okay, you can eat from this, you can't eat from the tree of knowledge, all that stuff. It's those 4 words that are so important. And God spoke to the man and said, the man, the word for man, Adam, means all of us are Adam. All of us are human beings. So when it says God spoke to the man, he spoke to all of us. When God speaks something once, he doesn't have to repeat it. It never stops being spoken. At Mount Sinai, the words that God spoke, they didn't echo. He just spoke them, and there was no hollowness in the sound. Like I'm sure you've probably in my room here, because it's not insulated, there's probably a little bit of hollowness in the way I'm speaking. But there was no echo at Mount Sinai. Why? Because what God, every word and every letter he spoke was absorbed by what he had created. It became a part of us. It's still a part of us today. An echo, when you speak something, and it's pretty neat if you ever been any place in the mountains or canyons, or when you shout out your name and then you hear it sounds like somebody shouting it back. Why? Your voice went over, the sound went over to the wall over there and bounced back to you. God's voice, he could do it all day long, and it's not going to bounce back, because as he says something, that wall is absorbing it. It's a part of what the wall is. It's a part of creation. And it stays there forever. Those words are there forever. From generation to generation. That's what happens with all of us, the same exact thing. And so when God says to the man, we're the man. We're him. We're human beings. And so when God tells us, all of us, to do something, he means all of us. The one thing he doesn't want to do is for us to, I'm going to put it in quotation marks, cross-dress. He doesn't want me to act like a Christian or any of the other things there. He wants simply me to be me. He doesn't want me to be somebody else. Period. Think about that. The minute you try to be something else, you're worshiping, I don't care how God created me, I'm going to be this, or I'm going to be that. Or worshiping a false deity.
There's so much to learn about. Every one of the 7 commandments just goes on forever. You know, and just like some of the stuff you're bringing out, you know, I've heard a little bit of this, a little bit of that before, but the way you're bringing it out is really interesting. It's through the worshiping him, you said, is our means. You know,
Yeah.
I hadn't heard it from that viewpoint. It's really, really interesting, very thought-provoking.
What we need to understand in all of this, what is worshiping, what does actually it mean to worship a false deity? You know, you may know that a friend of yours from work or somebody down the street or something, their phone got cut off, or they need to pay a bill. You get some extra money, I'm going to go buy myself a new CD, or I'm going to go buy myself a new TV screen, whatever. But you know somebody else needs help and you don't help them. What have you just done? Now, it doesn't mean that you have to pay a bill for somebody. It doesn't mean you have to correct any problem. It just means you just have to help them. You just have to help. That's all. You never know how much a little bit of receiving something will help someone that's in need. I hope that none of you, God forbid, should ever be in a circumstance where you need that.
I think a big part of this is creating that mindset. You know, I mean, especially here in the West, you know, we're a lot into ourselves, and we don't think about the other person. And I think a big step in in eliminating this this deity worship that's in our lives is beginning not to think about ourselves and put Hashem first and what He would think, and then that would lead us to taking care of our neighbors. But
Exactly.
it's a total mind paradigm shift to even get there.
No, that's a whole repair of yourself. Tikkun. It's a whole part of repairing yourself. I was in Jerusalem a couple of years ago. We had a visitor here, and before I go to Jerusalem, I get a whole bunch of change together in a little purse. Because everywhere you go in Jerusalem, somebody's got a handout. You go down the steps to the wall. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 elderly women there with their little cups, and there's even a couple of old guys there. You're walking down the street, and someone asks for the coin. They put their hand out. And so the person we were with, after he saw us do this 3 or 4 times, he says, well, I'm not giving these people nothing. I said, why? Just because you give them to one, then they all smell it, and they all come running around. They want their share of whatever it is you're giving out. And I knew that person missed the whole point of what we were doing. We're being kind to people. You know, there's I don't remember the whole story, so I won't get into it. The point is, you're just being kind to someone when you do this. Now, yes, there's some out there that are doing it like a scam or for a living, but most of them are not. At least around here, they're not. Sometimes, yes, go ahead, Angelica.
When we went downtown Vancouver, East Side, where all the homeless are and all the druggies and everybody else there, we never gave them money. We always said, we will take you out to eat. We will buy groceries for you. We will do that kind of thing. But we never gave them money because we know, like, you need to be wise too. And like in our situation, you have to be wise in who you are giving it to also. You want to be kind, but sometimes it's not about money. It's about other things, like you were mentioning.
Absolutely.
Because we used to take people off of drugs and other stuff. Anything that was an addiction, we took them off. So with that, it's we will relocate you, or we used to go there and help them out until they were ready to be on their own, and then take them to their parents.
Yeah, that's good.
But you have to be. I know that was when I was Christian. That's what we did. But even though I'm not now, I'm with the Noahide part. It's still the same. That part is, I don't know how to disconnect from that part.
There's nothing to disconnect from.
Right. Okay.
You're doing it properly. Here, look, at our center up in the city, the circle, which I've been up to because I was ill, but starting next week or week after, I'm going back 100%. There are guys that you come by and ask me for money. Some days I'd have some days I wouldn't. So they got to know me that if I saw them, as soon as if I put my hand in my pocket to pull out the purse, they came over, and if I didn't, they didn't. They don't, they might say hi or something like that. But there's 2 guys there that when I first opened up there, they were there all the time, give us a little money, I need 5 shekel, I need 2 shekel, I need this, I need that. And I looked them both straight in the eye and said, all you guys do is sit here and drink all day. You think I'm going to contribute to your habit?
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna give you money. Don't ask me for money.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna. You're an alcoholic. You're alcoholic. So I'm not gonna feed it. The guy over there at the other store wants to do it, or people coming by here want to do it, but this boy doesn't do it.
Right.
I have limits.
Yeah. Right on.
You know what? After being there for a couple of years, these guys respect me very much. They even come and pray with me sometimes, and they'll tell if somebody new shows up that. Because you're going to spend it on drink, he's not going to give you money. He wants you to stop drinking.
Yeah.
So I get to know you and understand you. And if I feel like I shouldn't give money to somebody, I don't. We have a lady in town that when I first met her, oh, my kids are at home, my electricity's off, I can't pay this, I can't pay that. And I gave her quite a bit of money to get bill. And she showed me bills. I said, here, go pay your bills. 6 weeks later, it's the same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
I realized she's running a scam.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her, don't ask me again. Don't ask my wife again. Well, she went and bothered my wife a couple of times. And when she came to me, I said, look, we're done.
Yeah.
You're not getting anything else from me.
Yeah. Yeah. We have those kind of people too. But yeah, you kind of, once you've gone, a route, I guess, for a while, you kind of get to know people and their kind of scams and their
Right.
and their everything else is.
It's okay not to get scammed.
Right, because we have, in the downtown east side in Vancouver is very bad. We have fentanyl deaths almost, well, lots.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's coming out here where we live too. So, yeah, it just have to be wise, I think.
Yes.
Just have to be wise. And Hashem knows, like they're all his people. They're all his creation. So, yeah, to help them, it's good.
Right.
Sometimes-
We down here, you've got the people that's on the exits there of the interstates and stuff, and they've got their cardboard signs, and they've actually proven that they all get in a van and they drop them off, and it's all a big scam. But the other day, I want to give a positive thing. There was a positive thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy that I don't know where this happened at, but he ended up, I think, homeless or so, out of work. Just a real bad situation in his life at the time, and he decided to go to in his town, to one of those corner spots, and instead of holding up a cardboard sign saying, "Hey, I'm homeless," he took an envelope full of resumes and then handed out resumes to people that would take them. He ended up with like 20 job offers,
Wow.
and to be able to get back on his feet. So I thought that was really cool.
There are many ways of being kind, and sometimes the greatest kindness is to be a little stern with someone. There's this whole tough love thing in America at one time. I don't know if they still do it or not. But sometimes you've got to be a little stern, and you're actually being kind to that person. So, but it takes courage on a person's part not to do this and say, look what a good guy I am. Look, I'm helping people out. Boy, I'm the greatest.
Then you're back to idolatry again.
Back to idolatry. Exactly. You got to leave the you out of it, the ego, the I, the self. You got to leave it out of it, and you're doing only one reason, because your creator, your king, your father wants you to do it. That's all. And look, everybody makes mistakes. They give to the wrong person. They don't give to the right person. It's okay. It's going to happen. It's not like you've done something terrible. There's an unforgivable thing with the Lord. The thing is, you've been kind. But you have to do everything with the right intent. And this is one of God's biggest teachings that he tells us. When you bring a sacrifice, back in the day, when you bring a sacrifice, no matter how big and beautiful the bull was, no matter how wonderful the sheep was, and how perfect it was, if you didn't sacrifice it with the right intent of the sacrifice, you just wasted the sacrifice. What do I mean? Well, I'm doing this so everybody will see what a good guy I am and how I'm cleaning up myself, and they're going to come to business with me, or they're going to be my friends, or whatever it is. Instead of saying that this is going to God as a payment for something that I've done wrong, and I want him to understand that I understand that I'm changing the way I am. The minute it's done for any other reason, it's idolatry. So we have to be very careful. You know, the Gabbai, the person that's responsible at our little Bet Knesset or shul across the street, every Shabbat we have a beautiful buffet. Basically, it's just, I don't know, but 10 different salads and maybe a little something cooked here and there. And he does it basically himself. And I go up to him afterwards, and this happens every Shabbat. I said, he'll thank you for doing the work you do and for making such good food. And he says, you don't thank me, you thank Hashem. Finally, I said to him, why are you saying that? You do the work. He says, but I'm not the only one. I said, that's fine. But still, when someone comes up and thank you, don't say you didn't take credit for it. Don't say only God gets credit for it, because if you didn't do it, God couldn't get credit for it. So if somebody thanks you for something, accept it. Accept, but don't let it hit your pride button. When somebody you're not doing it for the plaque to put on the wall. You know, I told you about how we buy parts of a building to finance the buildings to make schools out of them or whatever. The first one I did, they sent out clocks to everybody to hang on the wall that said the so-and-so family participated and bought, however number of portions bought to buy the building. Why did you do this? I gave money for the building. Why did you spend it on this? And the rabbi says, you know, if we didn't do this, some of the people won't give next time. Everybody likes to be appreciated a little bit. So he said thank you back to the people. And then I understood why they said thank you, because the next time they want to do it, the people will do it. There's a little bit of selfishness there. Look what I did. I got a plaque on the wall. But if you make a big deal about the plaque, it's like it's idol worship. Just be so careful about that. You know, today, it's funny, I had to go from here to a place called Kiryat Shmona, which is about a 40-minute drive. And coming back, I was just scanning the radio stations, because between here and there's a mountain where I live here and there. You know how you lose radio stations when you go up and down. And I'm scanning, and all of a sudden I hear, since my baby left me, got no place. I said, what year am I in? I'm hearing Elvis Presley. So I listened to Heartbreak Hotel, which I think was one of the great songs at the time. And they played like 4 or 5 Elvis Presley songs, one right after another. And it got me thinking about idol worship. Oh boy, do I remember how he was worshipped. Something I never got into, and I couldn't understand how other people did it, but he was actually worshipped by people. And people would faint when he was there, and they'd go into whatever. That's true idol worship, and people don't realize it. You see movies of Frank Sinatra back in the day when he used to go travel around, and swooning women and men too. Idol worship. It's so easy. Oh, it's not idol worship. He's just a great singer, and you know, it's so easy to fool yourself and get into idol worship. You can do it with your own self also. So the first one, do not worship a false deity, comes from the Genesis 2:16, which says, and the Lord God commanded to the man, saying. He tells all of us he's God, he's in charge, the Lord God. There's nobody else. And he's telling us how and what he wants us to do. The minute we don't do what he wants us to do, what have we done? Yeah, well, we don't need to do what you want to do. Your word doesn't mean anything. Now, people don't think that way, but that's what they're doing. That's idol worship. You know, I know that a lot of you grew up, show it to me chapter and verse. Where is it in chapter and verse? Well, I want to hear ... an actual, here's the commandment. But God doesn't really work that way, because he gives us, he couldn't have on the Torah scroll given us that thing. He couldn't have given it to us because we couldn't have written it all down. So he had to orally teach us. So not always does something have black and white, but he gave us the Torah as we opened the whole program. That gives us, in everything we read there, there's a code, there's a deeper meaning. Just like we talked about the Shema. And the last letter of Shema, which is Ayin, and the last letter of the whole sentence, which is Daled. Ayin Daled means witness. It's a witness. You're witnessing. What is witness? Exactly what you're saying. You're a witness to who he is and what he is and what he means to all of us. So it's important that we remember that. And the minute we lose sight of that, the minute we do one thing without, I mean, he doesn't care if you eat Cheerios, Frosted Flakes, or granola in the morning. That doesn't make any difference. We're allowed to make choices, but we're not allowed to make choices and have opinions and and tell ourselves we don't have to do what God told us to do because I'm a good guy anyway. And I decided to do it because I decided to do it. Do you know that atheists are idol worshippers? Scientists are idol worshippers. Anyone that does not follow God, I'm not saying all scientists are, I know all atheists are, but you have to check in everything you do to make sure that you're doing it with the right intention. Is it for God or is it for yourself to make yourself feel better? What is it? I used an example of a man or a woman going to the grocery store and buying a brand of product that their spouse, they eat it, but that's not the brand they eat. They like a different brand. But you know, it doesn't make any difference. Saying mustard's mustard, I'll just bring it home. Your spouse looks at it and says, wait a minute, you know, I like French's mustard better than Heinz, or Heinz better than, why didn't you just buy what I like? Oh, mustard's mustard, doesn't make any difference. What kind of intent is that? Why even bother going shopping for your spouse? Same thing with God. Good night.
So one of our biggest jobs is learning what he wants from us.
Yes, but it's very plain what he wants from us. And wow, oh my goodness, we've been on an hour and a half already. Guys, I appreciate you guys learning, and I know that there's a lot of people out there. I don't know how many people are going to watch it in the 90 minutes into it, but it belongs to a lot of different Noahide groups, and we have to find a way to bring some unity into this because some of the Noahide groups, in plain English, are becoming idolatrous. They're creating their own little religions and things like that. And our object here is try to keep people on the straight way. And if you have any ideas, any suggestions to help or something, please do. We need the help. We need the input. So unless anybody has any other questions, we're going to call it a night. No more questions? All right. And please share it with people. And if you need some people to send it. So next week, we're going to talk about do not curse God's name. So we just go through these one at a time with idolatry. I think I hopefully covered it pretty much with what we went through tonight.
We could probably cover it for a month and not touch it all, but you covered, you covered what we needed.
There you go. Yeah. God bless you guys. And you're not attached to me, you're a part of me. to say we're all a part of each other, not just attached, like being pinned. Being pinned is the engagement part. Becoming one is the marriage. So as soon as you do the marriage with God, we're all one. That's it. We're done. I mean, there's no more pinning, no more attached. We are one.
That's good.
God bless you guys. See you next week.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bye-bye.